Try that again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, attendees and participants, and welcome to the June 8th meeting of the City of Tampa Variance Review Board. From my left, the members of the board are
Susan Law,
Brett Feldman,
Lynn Hertag,
Dustin Pastor.
Sam Deckard,
David Farrell.
all right. Also in attendance this evening from legal, we have Kamaria Pettis-Mackel. From Development Coordination, we have Anastasia Barnes. And is Eric Cotton still with us, or did he take off? All right. And we have Eileen Rosario. From Natural Resources, we have Stephen Eister. And from Transportation, we have Jonathan Scott. There are some procedural rules that we need to follow. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, please adhere to safe social distancing as set within the room. Please maintain wearing facial masks at all times. When your case number and petitioner's name is called, please approach the podium. When you approach the podium, please state your name, address, and if you have been sworn in. The petitioner and/or their agent will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. All other participants wishing to speak will have 3 minutes, and then the petitioner will have an additional 3 minutes for rebuttal if needed. The time periods, as stated, will be kept by the board. Any information such as pictures or plans that have not previously been submitted as part of your petition and you intend to present at this hearing for consideration in support of your petition must be individually presented and accepted by the board. After acceptance by the board, you must submit the item to staff for it to be entered and made part of the permanent record. The board bases its decision on competent and substantial evidence which is presented and which meets the criteria required by the city's Code of Ordinances. Please be sure to clearly state your hardship criteria during your presentation. A majority of the board is needed to approve your variance. A variance granted by the board will be only for what is shown on the site plan and will be in compliance with any terms and conditions stated in the approval by the board. All other city codes will need to be met. If the case is approved, your variance will expire 2 years from the date of decision. If the case is continued, it will be continued to either the next month's VRB board agenda or the next available position on an upcoming VRB board agenda. If the case is denied, you may wish to have the Variance Review Board's decision reviewed or appealed by the City Council. You must file a petition for review of the board's decision within 10 business days of the written decision. You will not be able to pull any permits until after the 10 days review period has passed. Your cooperation in ensuring that this meeting is run smoothly is greatly appreciated. Can I have a motion from one of the board members to approve? I think we have several months' minutes that we need to approve.
Yes, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. The dates are April 13th, 2021, April 20th, 2021, and May 11th of 2021. Commissioner, can you turn your microphone on, please?
Can we do them all at once, or do you need individual motions for each?
You could do it all at once, but yeah, now your microphone is
Okay,
on.
go for it.
I move we approve the April 13th, 2021 minutes, the April 20th, 2021 minutes, and the May 11th, 2020 minutes.
Okay.
2021 minutes.
2021, yes, excuse me.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Yeah, I'm sorry, thank you.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. At this time, I will ask legal staff, please, to confirm whether there are any ex parte communications or conflicts among the board members.
Good afternoon again. Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office for the record. Will the commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda? Hearing none for the record. Additionally, will the commissioners please state whether or not they've had any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda? Hearing none for the record. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. At this time, would a staff member please conduct the swearing in? And for members of the audience, if there is a chance that you might speak this evening, please stand and be sworn.
Please rise and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Have a seat.
All right. Are there any other points of business that staff needs to cover before we get to the first case?
Just for a point of clarification, Ms. Barnes received communication regarding VRB 2124, that the agent and the owner would like to request a continuance of this case to the August 10th, 2021 agenda. And that correspondence was received by staff. So can we have a motion to continue VRB 2124 to the August 10th, 2021 agenda at 6:30 p.m.?
I move that we move VRB 2124 to the August agenda.
Can it be that, no, can it, I apologize, Commissioner, can it be date and time specific for the motion?
August the 10th at 6:30 p.m. Tuesday.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? No? All right. Motion passes unanimously, and VRB 2124 is moved to August 10th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Okay, any other business before we go to the next case? No? Next case it is. Ms. Barnes, please, if you wouldn't mind, 2127.
Good evening.
It's on.
Good evening, Anastasia Barnes.
The light's on.
I apologize. Okay, wonderful. Anastasia Barnes, Development Coordination, 2127 is the next case before you. The applicant, agent, and property owner is Noah Trinklin. The property address is 695 Geneva Place. The current zoning is RS60. The variance request is reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 5 feet and reduce the front yard setback from 25 to 23 feet in accordance with section 27-156 to construct a single-family dwelling. In the staff report, it said for an accessory structure that it is for only a principal structure with the attached garage. There were several prior cases. However, they were not, development did not happen within a certain time frame, so they're no longer valid. Here's a aerial of the subject property and the surrounding zoning, all residential in nature. Here is a site plan that was provided by the applicant with the reduced setback on the rear and the front. Here are several elevations that the applicant provided for the proposed development. And here are more measured elevations. Oh, so sorry. These are the standards for the variance review board for the variance power from 2780. And I'm available if you have any questions. Are you going to switch it to documentation?
Let me wipe my hands. Sorry. Clean. Oh. Oh, gotcha.
And when you get a second. Just give us your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn for us on the record.
I'm Noah Trinkline. This is my wife, Ashley Trinkline. We live at 695 Geneva Place. Yes.
You have 10 minutes if you want. Give us your presentation, explain to us your hardship and what you need from us.
Yeah, the lot, if you look closely at the site plans we have on there, there's a skewed front property line. And so when you factor in the skew of the front property line, it's difficult to fit the building in that constraint. So we asked that there be a front adjustment for 2 foot that allows us to square up the building with the front. Davis Island has a lot of curves in all their property lines, and so those tend to make kind of a trapezoidal shape, and so it's hard to fit a square building on it. So we ask that that be taken into consideration for the front property line. And then on the rear property line, we ask that instead of because of the way the driveways line up with the neighbor's driveway and because of the close proximity to the stop sign, if we were to use the front, there's a stop sign at the corner of, it's Geneva and I believe Hudson, is that right? Mm-hmm. On the front property line. If we follow the standards through, it forces us to put the driveway within pretty close proximity to the stop sign, and we want to put the driveway as far back to the rear of the property as possible.
Do you have a site plan we could see?
So what we need to do is we need to understand the hardships, and you started by explaining the basis for the skewed front.
Yeah.
Perhaps if you were to show us, I know in the packet we have a site plan.
Yeah. How do I operate this?
Yeah. Do you have a paper, or would you like?
Well, I can show it on that initial that you
Let me-
had
Right.
pulled up.
Sure. Apologies.
Oh, can I
And
zoom
then you
in?
can go back and
Oh,
forth.
just, okay.
It's lagging though.
So on this, is there a mouse? Oh, you can barely see my arrow there, but
Yep, it's there.
kind of see the setback requirements are on a skew here. So we asked if we could decrease this front skew by 2 foot. So that would go from 25 foot from the property line on this corner to 23 foot.
Okay.
And that would square it up with the front of the property.
All right, understood about the front. Now, can you explain to us the back? You were talking about the driveway, and I was
Yeah.
having some trouble
Let me
understanding.
So this is probably the best photo to demonstrate it, but just below here, there's a stop sign between this cross street here and where this car parked here. If we follow the standards and the garage ends up back here, it allows us to push this driveway as far back to the property line and line it up with the garage. The 20-foot setback puts your driveway right within 1 car length of the stop sign. So if I go back to the site plan, that stop sign is right here.
Okay.
In fact, I don't think they actually, I didn't show that on here. Can't zoom in, but it's right where that circle is.
Did you,
We actually applied for also, the review board had approved this same exact request, and we actually allowed it to expire. I didn't reference that in here before.
okay. Do you have anything else to share with us? Anything else you want us to hear?
I mean, I don't believe there's any more grievances that we would have for that. I mean, it's just a pretty simple request and what we're asking for, and it's purely so that we're not trying to back out into traffic as it's coming through right in front of the stop sign.
Okay. Well, does that conclude your presentation?
Yeah, there's nothing more to say.
Okay. Well, then maybe we can see if anyone has any questions, see if we can identify if there are any concerns. First, we'll look to the public. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak about this application? Seeing none, I will open it up for board questions.
Michael, could the reason you're looking at a 20-foot rear yard setback for the garage structure is because the way it's been designed, it's deemed part of the primary because
Yes,
of the way
it
it's
is.
built?
Yeah, it's not an accessory.
Okay.
And just Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the legal department, just for clarification, he's not asking for 20, the request is to reduce it to 5.
To reach us to 5,
Yeah.
right, but code interprets it as a 20-foot setback because it's part of the primary structure, it's not detached.
Correct. Let me take you back. Yeah, this is actually, there's a patio above here and connected to that. And then this connects to the property. So they're all interconnected.
All right, thank you.
And then I didn't have a chance to mention it before. I don't know if you noted, but the rear property owner provided a letter of acceptance and understanding as to that we would be providing that. I don't know if you mentioned that. I'm not sure it was included.
Anastasia Barnes. So yes, there was a letter of support that was received and was placed into the case file in Acela Online.
So this is a proposed home, right? It has not been constructed?
No.
Okay. And you said that you felt like if you moved 20 feet closer to the stop sign, you'd be right up against the stop sign. You'd only have to move 15 feet closer to meet the 20 feet, because you're already 5, right?
I'm trying to make the better of a difficult corner lot situation. And just,
Right, but my point is that even at 15 feet, it still looks like you'd be 40 or 50 feet from the stop sign. Like, from the site plan you're showing. I mean, basically the whole width of the house, you would still be from the stop sign if you were to meet the setback.
Yes. I'm not really sure. I guess, yes, what's the difference between 40 foot and traveling at 35 mile an hour? It's a blink of an eye. So, I mean, when we have a corner lot, I have no other options here. I can't put it anywhere else.
Well, yeah, I know, but the driveway codes are designed to factor in how close you can be to an intersection. And so if it wasn't safe or allowable, then there's a triangle of safety that they calculate from the stop sign and the view of the intersection that allows you to put a driveway, to whatever distance is allowable. You're not encroaching anywhere near that. So my point is, there's lots of corner lots in Tampa, all over the place. And the hardship with the property on the front, makes sense because it's angled and you're asking for minimal encroachment. But on the back, you're talking about a 15-foot encroachment, which once granted, rides with that property for eternity, essentially, and can always be used. And there's 5 hardship criteria that we're burdened to meet. And what I'm hearing is that you would prefer to have the driveway further from the stop sign for safety, which is, you know, an opinion of safety, although the code allows it to be closer. So my question is that the only burden, is that the only hardship that you're claiming? Is there something else about this property or that building that requires a structure to be placed in that location?
When I recall back to when speaking with our designer, they tried to fit the garage and get that driveway and follow the criteria you're referring to. That because of the height of where the garage has to be, they were having a difficult time basically getting the garage to fit in this area right here and still be able to provide the house and structure with the square footage that we needed for our family. So.
I have a question for staff. What are the setbacks for an accessory structure on this size lot?
I believe it's 12 or 15, if I recall. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
3
So sorry, because I'm not at the desk right now. It's not, accessory structures aren't, you know, because we're not, because it is part of the principal structure. So accessory structures are not. They might be reduced per the code if it's under a certain amount of square footage or, but otherwise over a certain threshold, it has to meet principal building setbacks.
Okay.
So
Well,
kind of,
Wait, don't go ahead, because I have a follow-up question, if you're okay with it.
Yep.
So the issue, as Mr. Farrell, I think, pointed out, is that we've got a connection to the main house, right? That's why this structure is being considered main structure setbacks.
Correct.
So that patio piece in between,
Correct.
which has a covered part of it, and then the raised patio piece, cool architectural feature, but that's what's, by connecting it, that's what's making what could be an accessory structure, main structure setbacks, right?
so I'll have to look exactly at the code, but there is a provision for breezeways that.
This is not a breezeway. I'm
Right,
not suggesting that this is a breezeway.
Right, correct.
No.
Otherwise, it would be part of the principal structure.
Right. So, and I just want to clarify this. So that piece in between, that connection, were it not there, hypothetically, were it not there, this garage standing on its own could be considered an accessory structure?
Yes, but it still might have to meet principal setbacks depending upon the size of the garage itself.
Okay, well, what would be the size that would trigger it over into
I'll
main
have to look
structure?
at the specific,
950,
yeah.
Yeah,
950
It's
overall.
15%
Can-
of the zoning district, so it's 15% of the allowed.
Yes, ma'am.
okay, so roughly 909, and this would fall under that
I
because
don't-
it says 589, right?
2 stories.
2 stories, so it would probably go over.
There's also height
Correct.
limitations.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. David, did you have a question?
No, it was just the one that's accessory, it probably can go as far back as, excuse me, is 3 feet to the rear setback line, but it has size and height.
Yeah, correct.
Limit. It's 950 square feet total,
Okay. And
up and down.
Sometimes it's
This-
750 though, depends on the
Sometimes,
zoning.
depending on the zoning, it could be as little as 750,
I
unfortunately.
cut you off. Did you have more questions? I apologize. No? Okay. All right.
I had a quick question.
Fire away.
How far is your driveway right now from your property line?
I'm scaling off of here, so I mean, I would, it's, the old structure, is roughly right around this location. And if I project the driveway off, it sits right around this, it's only one part, or it's only 12 foot wide. So it goes from about here to that center point of that driveway.
So it currently sits in the setback.
It's right at the 20-foot mark, yeah.
Okay.
It was an old garage that they boxed in, and now it's just a driveway.
Okay. Any other questions for the petition? All right, well, with that, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you'd like it.
I guess I don't know if there was when there's a rebuttal, I'm not sure what the stance is of the committee.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. A rebuttal is if you want to respond to any of the questions or the conversation that the board members raised during your questioning session.
Yeah, I would just say we really did talk a lot with our designer about trying to go with the accessory structure. They were unable to get the accessory structure to meet a lot of the specifications of the accessory, so then they designed it together as one whole piece, and then we went through a pre-design review board, and so I met with the city, and they reviewed this up front, and found the newer design much more favorable to meet the standards of the code. So they asked that they be a recommendation to go ahead and take to request for a rear setback based upon the pre-review design. Oh, that's my wife. She wants to say something.
And just to elaborate on this, her tax.
Kamaria
question-
Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. Can you please state your name for the record, please?
Oh, yes, Ashley Trinkline.
Thank you.
The current driveway, like you, is it 12?
It's 12 wide, yeah.
Only fits barely one of our cars. So one of us and our guests are always parking in the street. So obviously this would allow for a little bit safer parking situation.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay, well, with that, I will close the public hearing without objection from anyone, and open it up for board discussion and a motion, please. Anyone have any thoughts, Ms. Decker?
So I am having a hard time finding the front setback. I understand the hardship, the shape of the property. That's a pretty clear to me hardship with respect to the front setback. It's the back setback that I'm having a little bit harder time finding a hardship that I can articulate that would justify granting this setback. That said, I think that the petitioners could have provided a little bit more information that might have helped us. For example, it looks like this property is kind of hilly or unusually hilly. And unfortunately, we don't have, the architect or the engineer or anyone here that can provide competent and substantial evidence that we could rely on that, says the garage has to be seated in this particular location for the hills, or I didn't hear any sort of hardship that is attributable to this property. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I think some of the other board members might have other thoughts, or so I'm not going to make a motion just yet.
Okay, does anyone else have any thoughts or opinions on the issue of the rear setback?
I agree with Commissioner Decker.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
I think we could split some motions. I'll do the first one. I move that the variance request for case VRV 21-27 for property located at 695 Geneva Place be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction of the front yard setback from 25 feet to 23 feet based with an encroachment for eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the five hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that the lot is in a regular shape and the front setback is not straight. So this would allow them to have a house that would fits the other homes in the area.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to grant the front yard setback reduction and a second. We don't have to move to bifurcate it, but we are, she is making a motion to address one part of it. Ms. Pettis-Mackle, do we have any issues with that?
You're fine. You're
We're
fine.
fine with that. Okay. All right. So we have a motion to grant the front yard setback from 25 to 23 feet made by Ms. Hurtak and seconded by Mr. Farrell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. The front yard setback has been granted 6-0. You have a second motion, Ms. Hurtak?
Oh, I get to do both of them? Okay. I move that the variance request for case VRB 21-27 for the property located at 695 Geneva Place for a reduced rear yard setback from 20 feet to 5 feet with an encroachment for eaves and gutters be denied due to the failure of the petitioner to meet its burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria as set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that there doesn't seem to be any, none of the hardships are for this particular property seem to fit. Does anybody want to add to that?
I don't think you have to qualify a denial. The denial says that it does not meet the burden.
Yeah, that's.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to deny the rear yard setback made by Ms. Hurtak, seconded by Ms. Decker. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Nay. All right, let's do a count. Opposed? Opposed?
4.
4.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have a 3-3 tie. I guess that means we are continued automatically until the next meeting.
The portion regarding the rear yard setback from 20 to 5 is continued to the next agenda, but the board has already approved the reduction of the front yard setback. So it will be continued to only address the rear yard setback.
Okay. So what that means is that the next time we have a meeting, do we have availability in July? Okay.
According to staff, it's the next agenda is July 13th? Correct. July 13th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, so you are continued until that time. At that point, you can come back and establish a hardship.
Well, it'll just be heard to the board.
I'm sorry? It's just based upon what's here.
Right.
Okay, so they cannot present any additional evidence?
Well, this is, if it's additional evidence, they can produce, but if it's the same information, the case does not need to be reopened.
Right, we don't need to rehash the same
Correct.
stuff, but if they have additional evidence to
Right.
show a hardship as to the reduction from 20 to 5 on the rear yard, you can bring that and show it to us, and that may help us to understand. If not, you may be denied.
Can I speak?
Do you have a
Do you have a
question
question?
I
about
do have a
the,
question, yeah.
about the continuance?
About the continuance.
Okay, what is your question?
So the question would be, if it pleases the court, if you could tell me, not necessarily but what types of information would be helpful to the court based upon what we presented today?
You can talk to staff afterwards
Okay.
about that, and they should be able to provide you some guidance.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on to VRB 2136.
It's on.
Anastasia Barnes, Urban Planner 2 with Community Development. This case before you is 2136. The agent and applicant is Lloyd Stern. The property owner is Jay and Judith Vanderstelt. The property address is 4416 West El Prado Boulevard. The current zoning is RS 75. The request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 to 7 feet in accordance with section 27-156 to construct an addition. The RS 75 district setbacks are 25 for the front, 20 for the rear, and 7 for the sides. Here, here's an aerial photo of the subject property surrounded in red, as well as the surrounding zoning, primarily residential in nature. Here's a picture of the subject property from the right-of-way. This was the site plan submitted by the applicant showing the requested reduced setback. And before you again is the standard for the Variance Review Board, section 2780. And staff is available if you have any questions.
We have the applicant here, the agent, Lloyd Stern, or
The applicant is here, Chairman.
Great. Come on up, state your name, your address, and whether you've been sworn.
Mr. Chair, he's not been sworn.
I have not been
Where everybody is.
I just want to turn on your microphone.
All right, come on up, state your name, your address, and confirm that you were just sworn.
My name is Jay Vanderstelt. My address is 4416 West El Prado Boulevard, and I was just recently sworn in.
Terrific. Why don't you go ahead and give us your presentation, please?
I'm here before you today to ask for a variance approval to reduce the backyard setback of my property that was just stated from 20 to 7 feet in order to build a screened-in patio with shingle roof. The reason for this request is to build a safe space for my family to enjoy outdoors that provides relief from the weather to include shade from the sun, screens to keep away the bugs, and provide a protection from light range which can be used year-round. There are 3 generations living in my home permanently that include 2 young children. My family wants to provide a safer outdoor environment which will allow all of us an area to spend quality time outdoors. The current City of Tampa 20-foot backyard setback for my property is the reason I'm here asking for this variance. To build this type of structure requires an exception since the structure that I want to build would be closer to the property line than allowed without a variance. Thank you for your time and consideration. Subject to any of your questions, I hope you will vote favorably for this variance. One point I did have one neighbor respond via email, and she was in support of the approval. And I did not hear from any other neighbors.
Okay. You've explained to us what you're asking for. You've explained that you're asking for it as a consequence of the setbacks. Can you state for us the basis of the hardship on the record so that we can understand how we can grant the request that you're making?
I guess I'm not sure,
Okay.
what you
So
mean by hardship.
The hardships must be based upon the property itself. So I understand you want a safe space for your family. That's not something that we can really consider. It has to be based upon the physical characteristics of the property or something along those lines. Can you give us some understanding of what that hardship is so that we can consider it? And
Well, at least on the property, this is the only space that this type of structure could be built. I don't know if that constitutes a hardship.
okay, can you explain to us, all right, well, why don't you start there? Why don't you explain to us why it needs to be in this location and why it needs to be closer to the property line than the existing setbacks?
The existing porch on the back is a relatively small porch, and what we want to do is we want to extend the porch out. We're gonna come down from the roof, and then it's going to be a 10-foot structure. The reason it wouldn't be practical, or it wouldn't be a usable space if we were to enforce the 20-foot setback is because there would only be about 10 feet and I guess 20 by 10, which wouldn't provide a usable porch extension.
Okay. Do you have anything else to present to us this evening?
No, sir.
Okay. I don't see anyone in the audience, but I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience who'd like to speak about this petition. Seeing none, allow me to open it up for board questions.
You're talking about a screen porch, right?
Yes, and it's a screen porch with a roof, which different from a cage.
Right,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Would you be open to a condition that porch never be enclosed with walls?
Yes, I would be
Okay.
fine with that.
And you said you didn't actually speak with your rear neighbor, the one behind you?
The one directly behind me, I did not personally speak to them, no.
But did they respond in any way to the notice?
The one that responded is kind of catty corner, who was in support, so
Okay.
it wasn't the one right behind, no.
Okay, thank you.
There are structures in the area that are similar, at least setback-wise, from the rear.
Okay, that's good information.
It looks like there's a little bit of area on the west side of your property. Can you talk a little bit about why or why not, or why it would not be practical to put the porch?
You're talking about on the west side. That's actually a drainage. There's actually rocks underneath there. It's for the drainage for the area there. The city actually put in a drainage system diagonally across the street, so it wouldn't be practical to build it there.
It's a drainage easement. Yeah, yeah. My question is the reason that this is deemed, and I think the reason this is deemed why we're even here is because when you say you don't want just a cage look, what I believe Construction Service Center is saying that by putting a real roof on it, when you say shingles and tile, that becomes part of primary structure. If you did a metal roof or an insulated roof on that structure, it wouldn't be deemed part of primary.
I think it still would, Dave.
I think it's important to just, I think it's in, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the legal department, I think it's important to focus on what
On
the
the
applicant,
request.
the
Okay.
request that's before the board, and not an assumption or
All right.
a general discussion about other projects, but just what's before the board.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, are there any other questions for the applicant? All right. Mr. Vanderstelt, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal. You have an opportunity to address any of the issues or questions that have been raised, and provide us any additional information you think is necessary for us to make a decision.
I guess, am I allowed to respond to the? what
You
was-
are allowed to say whatever you'd like for 3 minutes, so yes.
Thank you, guys.
I would be, and I don't have my agent here tonight, unfortunately, who's more knows more about the construction. I would
Right.
have no problem that it not be a shingled roof. It could be, a metal roof, but I would like to have at least
Right.
a roof type on
Right.
the structure.
Not just a perforated screen on the top that would allow.
Yes,
it
that
to go
that
through.
is the preference.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, I'm flexible. Obviously, subject to council's.
Staff has some additional information regarding what, Commissioner, what that discussion is.
Okay.
Anastasia Barnes. So the solid roof, whether it's shingle or metal,
Mhm.
it doesn't
That's
change. Now, if it was fully screened, there might be reduced setbacks. But for if it's, as long as it's solid,
You're right. You're right.
the roof will
You're right. That's-
stay the same.
Okay.
Okay, so we interrupted you, so you still have basically 3 minutes, whatever you'd like to say.
I think
All done?
I'm done. Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, with that then, I will close the public hearing and open it up for board discussion and a motion, please. Mr. Pastor.
I'll make a motion. I move that variance request for case VRB 2136, located at 4416 West El Prado Boulevard, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing, for a reduction in the rear yard from 20 feet to 7 feet with encroachment of eaves and gutters, with the following conditions: that the structure never be enclosed, and that said variance as conditioned be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of a necessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code. Specifically that this lot has a drainage ditch constructed by the city on the west side of the house that prevents this structure from being built in that direction, and that there are other instances in the neighborhood of similar structures in a similar setback consistent with the neighborhood, and that they're trying to increase some livable space in a house that houses multi-generations, and this is the most reasonable and practical location to site the project.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, your motion has been granted.
Can you please ask the owner if he accepts the condition that was placed on the,
I did that.
no, can we ask him, the owner, again?
Again, okay,
Mr.
again.
Chair?
So legal likes to hear at the time that we make this motion that you accept the condition that you accepted earlier. Would you please confirm that you accept that condition?
I accept the condition that it never be enclosed. Is that what we're referring to? Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
terrific. Thank you so much. It has been granted 6-0 with the condition that it never be enclosed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fire away.
Anastasia Barnes, Urban Planner 2, Development Coordination. The next case before you is 2138. The applicant and property owner is Alec William and Christine Pope Peterson. The current zoning is RS60, residential single family. The request is to reduce the side yard setback from 5 feet to 2 feet, and the opposite side yard setback from 5 feet to 4 feet for a pool screen enclosure in accordance with section 27290.5, which is before you. So there are reduced setbacks for the screen enclosure. This is the subject site, an aerial photograph, and the surrounding neighborhood is residentially zoned. Here's a picture of the subject site. This is the site plan that was submitted by the applicant showing the reduced setbacks. Again, section 2780, application of the variance power, and staff is available if you have any questions.
Okay, we'll move to the applicant. Do we have an applicant or agent here? Yes. All right. They are, go ahead, swear in.
solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth? Yes.
All right, if you would please state your name, your address, and confirm that you were just sworn in.
Hi, yes. My name is Christine Peterson. I live at 4109 Westdale Avenue in Tampa, Florida 33609.
And you were just sworn in.
Yes, I was just sworn in.
Correct.
Apologies.
You have 10 minutes to give us your presentation and explain the hardships that require the setbacks reductions that you're asking for.
I really appreciate you guys' time this evening, ladies and gentlemen. So our request comes in two big points. The first is the pool cage. We currently have Asian tiger mosquitoes that live in our backyard. We have tried multiple mitigation techniques. We currently have a $3,000 mosquito net system that we pay $1,500 for a year to help try to mitigate the mosquitoes. This has unfortunately not actually had any success. We have two young children, a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old, who continually get very large welts from the mosquitoes, and it makes our backyard incredibly unusable, which for two young boys and a growing family, it becomes a very large problem, especially over the pandemic. So first, that's why the cage. Now, why the variance? Our pool is set back so far in our property that putting a pool cage down would basically require putting two edges of the cage onto the pool coping. The pool coping is 14 inches in diameter. This coping has a 2-inch approximate overhang, which requires then about 5 inches from the pool edge to the edge of the screen enclosure. For two young children who are still not very strong swimmers, having only 5 inches on two sides of the pool is not a very large area for them to safely get out of the pool, requiring therefore them not having, we feel, a really great safety setup. We currently already have a pool cage or a pool fence that does go around our pool, but while they're in it, we would really appreciate being able to set the cage back so that they can safely exit the pool. And that is our current stance. And I appreciate your time again.
Okay. So that concludes your presentation?
That concludes my presentation.
All right. And once again, I will go through the exercise of asking if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this presentation. Seeing none, I will open it up for board questions. Go ahead.
Did you build the pool or did you buy the house with the pool?
We bought this house with this pool.
That's my only question.
When was the house constructed? Do you know?
The pool was built, we believe, in 2006. The house is in 1991.
Okay. Great. And you purchased it?
Less than a year ago.
Gotcha.
We're a COVID move.
Okay. I agree. That clarifies things. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you'd like it.
I have no rebuttal.
Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion or board discussion. Anyone have a motion? Mr. Pastor?
I move that case VRB 2138 for property located at 4109 Westdale Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the west side yard setback from 5 feet to 2 feet and a reduction in the east side yard setback from 5 feet to 4 feet with encroachment of eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record of this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code. specifically that they're trying to enclose a pool that was existing when they purchased the property and is too close to the property lines to meet the pool cage setbacks without encroaching upon the edge of the pool, which creates a safety issue.
Second.
Second from Ms. Decker. All right. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Pastor. We have a second by Ms. Decker. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Your motion is granted 6-0.
Thank you.
And have a good evening, and we'll move on to the next one.
Have a good, great evening too.
All right, Ms. Barnes?
Anastasia Barnes, Urban Planner 2, Development Coordination. This case before you is VRB 2145. The applicant property owner are Paul and Michelle Benaviti. The agent is Pete Hidalgo, and the address is 4705 West Leona Street. The current zoning is RS 75, and the request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 5 feet 4 inches for an elevated pool in accordance with section 27-290.3.
Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead. No, sorry. Go ahead.
no, here's an aerial zoning map showing the subject property. It is largely surrounded by other residential property. And here is a street view. And this is the site plan that was submitted by the applicant, and a closer plan as well showing the elevated pool. Again, this is section 2780, application of the variance power, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and swear the applicant in.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth? I do.
All right, come on up, state your name, your address, and confirm that you were just sworn in.
Good evening. My name is. Okay, good evening. My name is Peter Hidalgo. I'm the owner of PCS Pools. I'm acting as an agent for my customers, the Benvenutis, located at 118 West Bay Drive, Largo, Florida.
And you were just sworn in.
And I was just sworn in.
Terrific. You have 10 minutes to explain to us the hardships, please.
This is my first one, but I'll presume you have the application, the copy of the application that was submitted?
We do.
Okay. So in terms of the request, it is to allow us to build a pool deck 24 inches in height versus the code requirement of 12 inches. This is in order to match their existing patio that is already at 24 inches. So we wish to bring the pool deck up to the same level. Per the code, if you attach, it's no longer accessory structure, permanent structure. That's the reason for the reduction of the 20-foot setback for the permanent structure to 5 feet 4 inches. But the driver here is bring the pool deck up, connect it to the existing patio. In terms of statement of hardship, I won't read it all to you word for word. A couple of key points that I'll highlight. One, when they purchased the house, it was new construction. The 24-inch patio was there. It wasn't a choice by the homeowner to have it done that way. They inherited that. In terms of impact to owners, number 3, our view is since the patio is already at 24 inches and it's covered, that height, we're not exceeding that height. It's not going to negatively impact the neighbors. Since that patio is already at the height, we're just bringing the pool up to that level. It won't provide any advantage to us above the neighbors. The pool will be screened and closed, and there's already a privacy fence in the back of the property, so the view will already be obstructed from the neighbors. Also, elevating the deck increases safety for their small children as well as their elderly parents, because that eliminates the steps we would have to install to drop down from the patio down to the pool deck. So we think there's a safety issue there. That really goes to item number 4 too, that they have a young child. Safety concerns are what prompted the request. We feel it's in harmony with the code as we're looking to improve safety standards by excluding steps down to the pool deck. Lastly, we are complying with all of the setback limitations with regards to the deck and screen enclosure, as we're aware of the restrictions given in place from the TICO easement that we have. We're really just asking to extend the existing lanai at 24 inches out to include the pool area. And then lastly, we do have a couple of letters of support from the neighbors that are in agreement with that request.
Are those letters, those have not been included in the packet? You have those for us this evening?
I believe so. I have them in my copy.
Okay.
Do you not have them?
No.
No.
If you have them with you,
Yeah.
just put it on the
She
doc
made
cam
me a
right there.
copy. Sure.
Hold on. And you just scoot it down. There you go.
Okay.
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 Great, thank you. Are they all the same, or nope? they're
No,
different?
this is the
They're not.
second neighbor on the same street. I guess next door. Okay. That's all the information I have to present, unless you have any questions.
Okay, you'll need to give those to staff so that they can be included in the public file.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the information you have. We'll go through the same exercise. Is there anyone here who would like to speak about this petition? Seeing none, I will open it up for board questions. Anyone have any questions? Going once? Going twice? No questions. All right, well, you have an opportunity to rebut the no questions that we asked, if you'd like to do so.
No rebuttal at this time.
All right, great. With that, then, I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion or discussion. Anyone? Ms. Long?
I'll make a motion. I move that the variance request for case VRB 2145 for property located at 4705 West Leona Street, Tampa, Florida, be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the rear yard setback from 20 to 5.5 feet 4 inches, based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record, and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that the foundation is already set at 12 inches above grade, and therefore to add the pool, for safety reasons, it also had to be 12 inches above grade. The small children would have difficulties running down steps, and there wasn't room to put the pool in that way.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Ms. Long, seconded by Mr. Pastor. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay? All right. The motion was approved 5-1.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anastasia Barnes, Development Coordination. The next case before you is VRB 2165. The applicant and agent are Steve Michelini and Jonathan Lawrence. The property owner is Pamela Baines. The property address is 3614 West San Pedro Street. The current zoning is RS 50. The request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 to 3 feet and reduce the side yard setback from 7 to 3 feet to build an accessory structure. So the code requirements, section 27290, regarding the accessory structures with the gross floor area greater than 15% of the minimum required lot size must meet principal building setbacks in accordance with 27156C. This is an aerial view of the subject property with the surrounding zoning, which is residential in nature. This was the site plan submitted showing the existing versus the proposed conditions with setbacks. And section 2780, application of the variance power, standard for review, and staff is available for any questions you may have.
Great, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and swear the applicant in. And maybe he was already done? Did you already do it? All right. State your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn, Mr. McElhaney.
Steve McElhaney, I'm here on behalf of Pamela Baines, 3614 San Pedro.
And
Really,
you've been sworn.
I'm sorry?
And you've been sworn.
I've been sworn.
Thank you.
This project originated, let me just go through some of the issues here that we've got. What really is driving this project is this. They are accepting and have accepted off-site drainage onto their property.
We can't see
We can't see that.
whatever you put.
Okay, you should be able to.
Oh, okay.
What you see highlighted in yellow is an extensive under-drain system, and they're accepting off-site drainage. You see the squiggly arrows that are...
Can you zoom out a little bit, please?
That's better.
How's that?
Yep.
They are accepting off-site drainage, which typically these other properties are not supposed to do. But because it's historic, they cannot obstruct that off-site water from coming through their property. So let me give you an idea of what kind of water they were accepting into their backyard.
Whoa.
And if you look at the fence line over here, you can see the water stains up on the fence. So it's not just that shallow. That's about 4 inches of water, and it gets even deeper. So what they did was that they built an extensive under-drain system to accommodate that off-site drainage, and then they installed that. They applied for and they received a design exception to build that. So in your report, you see that they have had other considerations that were granted to them. So this is the depiction of what's being proposed, and essentially the existing garage carport that is here has to be removed and elevated because it's now accepting that water that's not part of this drainage system. If you look back here, the drainage system covers the area of the rear of the yard, but not here. So the proposal is to remove this existing garage and carport and then replace it with another elevated garage and carport. But this is an open deck. This is not fully enclosed on the second level. So you would have an enclosed level on the lower side and then a raised enclosed garage studio on the other side. And you can see that a little bit. I've got an elevation here. You can see that here of what's being proposed. This would be a two-level addition, lower level, and then the upper level that's open. When we're going through this process, and when I met with the owners and we went through all of this, you know, I said, okay, where is the hardship that's being created? Why didn't you consider a rear addition? And this is exactly why they could not even consider a rear addition, because they had already installed this extensive drainage system underneath the back. So it only left the carport and garage area to accommodate them. It started, the flooding started in 2003, and 2017 is when they were actually installed their under drain system. And it flows with a pop-off down on this side, and it actually connects to the stormwater system in the city. So, with respect to the alleged practical difficulties and hardship, they're not created by these owners. They are accommodating off-site stormwater, which prevents them from adequately using their entire rear property. And they haven't addressed any of their neighbors about this, but they have support from other adjacent property owners. You also had a letter of objection, but I'm going to show you where that property is. These, you have in your packet letters of support from all of these property owners. Now, this property at 3616, this property over here on Obispo, this property here, all contribute to the stormwater drainage problem that is affecting the rear of this property here. You have a letter of objection from this property owner, which if you looked at the gradient variation elevations, this is one of the highest contributors to the rear yard flooding. If I showed you that picture again regarding the stains on the fence, it's coming from that corner. And then that's the individual that filed a letter of objection. You know, and I know you hear a lot of these different presentations, but this is one that I clearly believe is unique. I don't think I've ever dealt with one that had so much water coming onto the property that they had to build their own under drain system. So we're asking for relief. We went through some staff reviews. The staff requested that we move the building forward slightly, which we did. So it went from 1 foot to 3 feet in the rear, as I think Annie pointed out. So we have clearly met the practical difficulties. We clearly have not created this hardship ourselves. It will not interfere with the rights of others. As a matter of fact, it will benefit all of the surrounding property owners, because we're doing them a favor by allowing that water to transfer through their property and unimpeded. It serves the general intent of the code, as in it's accommodating other people. It's not for the sole benefit of the property owners, but it does allow them to achieve some benefit by allowing the new structure to be built. It will result in substantial justice being done, as this was never intended to create a hardship for the property owners. And quite honestly, they've spent thousands and thousands of dollars to accommodate this stormwater system. And as you know, particularly in South Tampa, we have those periodic flooding issues, and this will alleviate their rear flooding. It will elevate the new structure so that they're no longer having flooding issues there, and it will accommodate them with addition with a 2-story apartment, garage, studio, and an enclosed garage and an open carport down below. I have the city code as regarding technical standards, and it's included in your package regarding stormwater and what is allowed and what's not. And in this case, we're not blocking off any stormwater flows. We're accommodating it with the new structure, and it will be there for the benefit of all of those surrounding property owners. I think you also have the letters of support in your file, but I'll be happy to give them to you. And I'm not sure if you had the flooding photo in your file or not. If not, I can certainly provide that to you. I think that we've met all of the burdens that are applied to requests of this nature, and I'd respectfully request your approval. You want me to hand these to you, or? What's that?
Or, go ahead, are you not done?
You tell me. I don't know. I think I'm done.
Okay. Annie Barnes, or Anastasia Barnes. So it's my understanding that they were all included in your packet, but I believe there were several letters of opposition. However, I believe they were received prior to the updated site plan. So perhaps, I'm not sure if those people are still in opposition, but we did receive them in the record, so.
There were 2 letters of opposition. I showed you where the one came from, the corner property, and the other one came from across the street that was not adjacent to this property. It was on the next block over. But we believe that those were supporting each other, and I'm not really sure what the concerns were, except that it was expressed to us that they thought people were going to be looking over in their backyard, which, you know, I know you hear that complaint frequently regarding 2-story structures, whether it's a house or it's in addition to a garage. But we did move the structure forward, and certainly we can add landscaping if that's the pleasure of the board. But I don't think that it was materially would affect any off-site properties, including looking over the fence or something like that.
All right, Ms. McLeany, does that conclude your presentation? I suspect we're going to hear from some of these folks, and then you can perhaps rebut them afterwards.
Yes, sir. I don't think so, but that's fine. I'm not aware of anyone that's here. These are the owners.
Okay.
The owner petitioners are
All
here.
right, so maybe we won't hear from
And
anybody.
the designer architect is here, Jonathan Lawrence.
Okay.
So these are all part of the team.
Gotcha. All right, well, then let's just make the usual call. If there's anyone here who would like to speak about this petition, please let us know. Seeing none, let's open it up for board questions. Does anyone have any questions? No questions. All right, Mr. McElhaney, now you have the opportunity, if you would like to.
I think that we've demonstrated that we have clearly met all of the criteria established by the code, and these owners have gone above and beyond what would normally be considered their responsibilities and their duties. So I would respectfully request that you support our request for a variance, and that concludes my comments.
Okay. Thank you very much. With that, we will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion and or board discussion. Anyone like to make a motion? Mr. Farrell?
Okay, motion for approval. Move that the variance request for case VRB 2165 for the property located at 3614 West San Pedro Street be granted as depicted on the site plan as presented at the public hearing for a variance to reduce rear yard setback from 20 to 3 feet and reduce side yard setback from 7 to 3 feet for the construction of an accessory structure based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that this property is in essence a drainage lot to its surrounding property owners, and by virtue of their construction of an underground cistern to handle that drainage, they have been forced into the situation of being able to have to relocate their accessory structure plans.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Farrell, second by Mr. Tucker. All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? All right. Motion has been approved, 6-0.
Thank you so much, Board. We really appreciate your service here. I know it's sometimes difficult, but we do appreciate what you do for us. Thank you.
Okay. Last case, I think.
Anastasia Barnes, Urban Planner 2, Development Coordination. VRB 2169 is the applicant agent is Stephen Eshkenazi. The property owner is Skyline 41 Investments, and the address is 423 West Amelia Avenue. The current zoning is RM16. There are several requests for reduced setbacks, both for primary structure and proposed accessory structure, to reduce the side yard setback from 7 to 6 feet on the west side, reduce the side yard setback from 7 to 3 feet 10 inches on the east side, and reduce the front yard setback from 25 to 21 feet 4 inches. In regards to the accessory structure, to reduce the side yard setback from 7 feet to 5 feet along the west side, reduce the side yard from 7 to 2 feet 6 inches on the east side, and reduce the rear yard setback from 20 to 10 feet. The code requirement is section 27290 regarding accessory structures must meet the principal building setbacks if they are above the 15% threshold. And in general, the primary structure has to meet 27156 district regulations as well for the RM16 zoning district. There are several prior cases adjacent and on the existing property. Here's an aerial photograph of the subject site and surrounding zoning. It is multifamily and residential in nature. Here is a current view of the subject site from the road. And this is the site plan that was submitted, as well as the elevations that were submitted by the applicant. Again, section 2780, application of the variance power, and staff is available if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. Is our applicant been sworn? All right.
I would like to clarify that the rear setback is 15 feet in the RM16, and the request is to reduce it to 10.
Okay. All right.
Hi, my name is Stephen Eshkenazi. In light of the fact that we have several variances, would it make sense to go through one at a time and then take questions, or go through all
However
four
you
of them?
want to present it, but first, if you wouldn't mind stating your name, your address, and confirm that you've just been sworn on the record.
My name is Stephen Eshkenazi. My address is 308 West Francis. The property we're discussing today is 423 West Amelia in Tampa, Florida, and I have been sworn under oath.
Great. All right.
I would prefer to go through them one by one. So the first thing that we'd like to talk about is a front yard setback. So we are requesting a reduction of the setback from 25 feet on the front to 21 feet 4 inches.
Excuse me, if you're gonna run through all these, could you put up a site plan or something?
Yeah, my apologies. So is there a way, do we have the application?
So
We can pull it up?
Do you want it here, or do you want to? Do you have things to?
The same one you have,
Okay.
we can just pull it
So
up.
the arrows will. Apologies. the site plan, and then those are your elevations, so you can go back and forth.
Is there, should I be able to zoom in from this, or they can see it clearly?
I'm not sure, board, can you see?
Yeah, we have screens here, so you can.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if you needed to zoom in.
No.
Okay, so the request here is to reduce the front yard setback from 25 feet, which is the normal requirement in the RM16 district, to 21 feet 4 inches. We've already applied for a previous design exception 1 at the adjacent parcel that we own at 421 West Amelia, and the urban design came back and said that we would be allowed to reduce that setback to 21 feet 4 inches. So we're requesting to be able to reduce the same setback at 423 West Amelia to the same 21 feet 4 inches, which is consistent with the rest of the block average. So with that, I have nothing else to say, I guess, on the front yard setback request for variance, and I'm happy to take any requests for questions, because again, we'd be able to, the alternative would be going through a design exception, and given that we are doing a few other things that would be normally suited for a variance, we thought we'd add this in here to accomplish and prevent further delays.
So normally what we do is we give you 10 minutes to make your presentation.
Sure.
Then we allow members of the audience, if there are any, to make comments, then we ask questions.
Sure.
So it would be a bit of a procedural mess if we were to ask questions after each one of the requests that you're making.
For the variances? Okay, understood. I just, given that there's several, I didn't want to get them lost. Totally understood.
No, it's all right.
So the next request for variance is on the west side. So the west setback, right now we are requesting a reduction from 7 feet to 6 feet. And this is to accomplish some architectural elements that we have on the, if you can see right here, we have a few columns that are going to be running towards the south side of the or I guess it's on the front of the property, but which will be on the south side of the street. So these columns are going to be designed with concrete, and because they're made with permanent materials, they're going to be considered part of our setback. So this column itself would extend 1 foot additional into the west side, and this is what we are requesting the variance to allow. The rest of the structure will remain at the 7 foot setback as required within the RM16 zoning district. The next setback we are requesting is along the east side, and I think what's very important to note is that we own and are doing a development along the east side at 421 West Amelia. We are doing a 3 townhome development at West Amelia. It was just because we later acquired 423 Amelia that we are now in a particular situation where we already platted 421 West Amelia, and that development's well underway. So we are asking for some reduced setbacks on the east side, but the owner that is most impacted is my own development and my own property. So we are requesting a reduction from 7 feet to 3 feet 10 inches to again accommodate the architectural elements. And I will show those are right here on the east side, again towards the front. There's 1 column that is running down that will also be made out of concrete. The rest of the setback will be 4 feet 5 inches. So what is important to note here is, from talking to Susan Johnson at the City Attorney's Office, she was the one that formally requested that rather than going through a replat to accommodate the reduced setbacks, she suggested that we come to the Variance Review Board because she's claiming that the current city staff is very overburdened, and given that the requests we're asking for are very reasonable, that she thought it would be better suited for the Variance Review Board rather than us having to present and do a complete replat of our 2 developments into 1 development. So that was from correspondence with her in terms of how best to proceed. So that's why we ended up bringing the east setback to a Variance Review Board, and then we brought in the other variances. So and the last request is on the accessory structure. So the accessory structure is, we have 3, these are 2 single-family semi-detached units. So I understand that we've already built a few other garages in the area at 406 West Francis, which is a block to the south, 308 West Francis, and 421 West Amelia, all without variances. So we've gone through the normal permitting process, and we were able to receive side yard setbacks as little as 3 feet without any additional variances. So on this, we're requesting a 5-yard west side setback, 2 feet 6 inches on the east side, and 10 feet on the rear. As it relates to the reason why we're having to do this is because the code section refers to 15% of the lot minimum size, but what the code's a little more unclear about is whether that refers to single-family dwelling units, or in the case of this, we have 2 individual deeded lots. So if each lot we were able to receive that 15%, we'd be absolutely fine. It's just in terms of the interpretation of the code. The proposal is to build 2 two-car garages with the goal of providing both the homeowners as well as the neighbors, taking the cars off the street and providing them rear alley parking. So again, that will be a more desirable product for the end buyers, as well as more desirable for the neighbors, because we're now taking parking, which is typically in the front, and moving it to the rear. As it relates to the setback on the west side, which is adjacent to North Boulevard, that is where we're having the 5-yard setback, 5-foot setback. And again, that would be normally okay as if we were referring to a normal accessory structure, which would be a 3-foot setback. But they're asking for us to use primary structure setbacks, which would would change that to 7 feet. So we're trying to get that to be somewhere in between at that 5-foot mark. And then again, on the east side, we're requesting that reduction from 7 feet to 2 feet 6 inches. Again, this accessory structure is 2 two-car garages. So each unit will be able to have their 2-car garages will be amply sized at 20 feet by 20 feet. Anything less, and they would no longer be suitable for 2 cars to be parked there. And we're still able to accommodate the 22-foot driveway and garage turning radius because we have a 12-foot alley in the rear. So with that, I would be happy to open it up to any questions on the presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Let's start with our virtually empty audience. If there's anyone who would like to comment upon this application, please let us know now. Seeing none, let's open it up for board discussion, for board questions, please.
Can you see the site plan again? Can you point out the garages? I think I see them in the back there.
Yes.
So those are each 20 by 20?
The interior dimensions is 20 by 20.
Yeah.
The exterior block dimensions is 21 feet 4 inches by 21 feet 4 inches.
Probably a little less because they probably share the middle wall, right?
They do. That's inclusive in that calculation. The total length this way is 42 feet 8 inches.
Okay.
And this is consistent in side and setbacks with the development to the east, which is also our development at 421 West Amelia. And that was the nature that from a streetscape perspective, that if you're coming down North Boulevard into the alley, these garages would be uniform in size and in terms of setback.
So why wouldn't you just center the building and the garages on the property? They're both offset.
Sorry, your question is why would we not center
The primary structure, you're asking for 6 feet and 310.
Sure.
Uneven. And on the garage, you're asking for 5 feet and 2.6 uneven. Why wouldn't you center it to try and minimize the impact on both sides?
So the goal here is to not impact anyone else other than myself. So by centering it, we'd then be moving the development closer to North Boulevard. And if we had this garage closer to North Boulevard, it'd be a little bit tighter in terms of the turning radius, that if you came in and had to make 2 immediate rights to get into your driveways. So we thought that both from a aesthetics perspective, by having a little bit larger, there's a very small right-of-way on the west.
Yeah.
There's only a sidewalk, and then it goes right to the actual street itself. So I believe it's about a 4 or 5 foot right-of-way. There's not the grassy median that sometimes you have the luxury of having. So this 6 foot, which is largely 7 foot across 45 feet of the primary structure, and then this a little extra setback here will provide more function for accessing the garage, and then it'll just provide a little bit more, as people are coming up on Amelia, just a little bit more, instead of the building feeling too close towards the west side is what we thought aesthetically. And again, the goal was to have, the hardship we have here is we already have a narrower lot at 50 feet, and we already own the lot to the east. So we thought that if we're impacting anyone, we'd be impacting our own development at 421 West Amelia, and not try to have any of the other neighbors or be negatively impacted by what we're trying to accomplish.
And do you already have a buyer and or occupant on the existing property to the south?
To the,
Or the
and
south
is
on
to
this
the
plan?
east. So the east is 421 West Amelia, which is 3 single-family attached townhome units. Those are currently under construction.
Okay.
We've started construction on those about 4 months ago. They are under contract with end buyers, but they have not been sold because we're waiting until the end of construction to actually change the title.
Okay, and you haven't started construction on this one that we're looking at here?
No, we have not. This is going to be contingent in terms of the setbacks, in terms of what we could build on it.
Okay. All right.
I'm having a hard time finding any hardship for the main building.
Sure.
Design is not a hardship, so can you tell us what the actual hardship according to the 5 criteria would be for the main structure?
Absolutely. So the concept, I went to Susan Johnson because she works more closely with the plating about 3.5 months ago, and told her the situation where we own 421 West Amelia. And I actually came to her initially with the plan of trying to replat the entire development together. So replat 421 West Amelia and 423 West Amelia as one 5-unit townhome development, which would allow us to then have whatever proximity between the 2 buildings that we'd like. When I went to her, we just completed the 421 West Amelia plat, and she thought that the amount of burden it puts on city resources, because every single city resource has to review, you're talking stormwater, the water department, natural resources, fire, building, urban design, planning commission. Everyone has to review this plan. That she thought that given we just went through this, what we were asking for would be something that would be granted by right if we went through the replat, that she thought it would be better to go through the VRB process to avoid the strain on city resources and legal to accommodate what we can accomplish through a replat.
Maria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Just to clarify, I don't know who you've spoken with in the legal department, but you're saying Susan Johnson, she's not in the legal department.
She works with the review of the plating department. So
But you're saying the legal department is not in the legal department.
my apologies for misspeaking. So I guess she works with the land use and she works in the city attorney's office. Is that no?
No.
But she is the head of her department.
I just want to clarify the departments that are involved with who you've talked to about your project. It's not with the legal department.
Understood. Okay. So is someone able to, I guess, my understanding is that she does the legal review of the plats and.
For the record, Anastasia Barnes. So Susan Johnson works primarily with plating. She is a lawyer, however, she is not in the legal department. So I'm not sure what conversation specifically happened, but so yes, she is a coworker of ours.
Thank you for clarifying. So yeah, my apologies for misspeaking there. So again, the concept was that because we own these 2 developments ourselves, we'd be able to otherwise replat the entire development and have it as a 5-unit development with these setbacks that we're proposing. So the goal was to try to not put that strain on the city resources in terms of having to go review something that was already went through the entire review process to accomplish something that we'd be able to accomplish with potentially a VRB.
That is not a hardship, though. So I'm asking for, based on these 5 hardship criteria, why should we approve this? Because city being busy is not a hardship.
So the first hardship here is the lot dimensions. So we have a 50-foot wide lot that is to accommodate the two single-family semi-detached structures. We want to be able to provide a functional and useful design and layout that will be actual livable. If we went below 36 feet, you're no longer able to accomplish a reasonable design. So that was part of the reason we were trying to have it be a functional width. So the hardship we're experiencing here is in terms of to provide a functional site and design used based on our existing site conditions and lot sizes.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify one point. You said some of these design elements, the columns and things like that, which are pushing you into the setback, these are already approved on the neighboring lot that you own. Is that accurate?
We do have similar design elements. They're not identical looking structures. So what we're planning on building here is complementary to, but not identical to what we have on the adjacent parcel. So these columns here are unique design elements. And again, this is, if we had to redesign those columns, this has not been something finalized. We're trying to provide an aesthetically pleasing product. And we have a few vertical columns that would be going from that 7-foot setback on the west to the 6-foot. But those are certainly not things that we are trying to overly impede on the setback requirements of the 7-foot.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. You have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you'd like to address any of the questions or issues that were raised.
Yeah, absolutely. So as it relates to the hardship, I understand what you're claiming about the fact that a drain on city resources is not enough for a hardship. You know, I went to the cities and tried to present my case why I was going through a replat, and this was a proposed alternative by several people at the Land Development and Coordination Office, as well as from Susan Johnson. So those are multiple people that pushed me down this route. And now hopefully that wasn't without their understanding of the process. You know, we've done several other developments in the area, and our goal is to continue to revitalize and improve the areas that we're working in. And I think it was important to us to, you know, we understand that we're asking for a few particular setback reductions, but everything that we're doing as it relates to the 2-car garages is to hopefully provide a better product. You know, the hardship we have is, again, 50 feet wide lot. We're trying to provide 2 2-car garages. The alternative would be a single-car garage with a car parking adjacent to it. That's less desirable to the street and the neighbors, as well as less desirable to the homeowners to have parking with a 1-car garage with a covered patio or a covered awning below it. And then as it relates to the primary structure, the hardship there, again, 50-foot wide lot, trying to accommodate 2 single-family semi-detached structures that we're trying to provide a functional plan. Getting it to 19 feet wide provides a little bit more of a functional layout. And the most impacted person here is the 421 West D'Amelia development, which is what we already own. So what we're trying to accommodate here is to be able to construct something without having to replat and be able to provide a useful and practical plan for the development itself so that the buyers have a functional living space. And with that, you know, I appreciate the consideration, and hopefully we are able to get approval on what we're requesting for today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion or board discussion.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I was back to where Mr. Cotton. Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Before I close it up.
Pardon? Before I close up the hearing,
Yes.
go ahead.
There is a pending design exception on this application, and Mr. Cotton was just going to put some information on the record regarding the motion and associated with this pending design exception.
Okay. Go ahead.
Good evening, Eric Cotton, Development Coordination. The design exception one is to allow for a detached garage in a semi-detached development. If the board's desire is to, or wish to, is to approve this request, it's conditioned upon, development will be conditioned upon the DE1 being approved. If that's the intent of the board is to approve it, you can make it as part of your motion to say that, you know, the approval of this variance is conditioned upon the approval of the design exception. He can't have one without the other. So, well, he could have the detached garage with that and still meet the setbacks without getting the variance, but the DE1 has to be approved in order to have a detached garage. Thank you.
And just for clarification, the specific case number is DE1-21-195.
Would we need,
I would just, if, depending on the board's motion, if that could be a condition that the design exception be approved to address the setbacks.
right, so hypothetically, if we were to approve what's being requested, you're asking that we put a condition that the design exception must also be approved as part of our motion.
Please.
But do you require us to also list the design exception number, or can we
Please.
just say the,
For specificity, yes.
okay? You want to say that again then? The design exception application number, somebody got that?
Yeah, 1-21.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, this will be an instance where I'm happy that I can't make a motion, because this seems like a lot of fun, so.
And the board is certainly open to bifurcating, because there, I think I counted 6 requests. So if you need to bifurcate, that's fine.
Okay, well, would anyone like to get us started on a motion here?
I will.
Is there a question? Did you, can you close the public hearing, please?
Yes, all right, sorry. I will now officially close the public hearing and open it up for a motion that Ms. Decker would like to take a crack at making.
Yes.
All right,
I move that case, variance request for case VRB 21-69, for property located at 423 West Amelia Avenue, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing, for a reduction in the side yard setback from 7 feet to 6 feet, a reduction in the side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet 10 inches on the east side, a reduction in the front yard setback from 25 feet to 21 feet 4 inches, a reduction in the west side yard setback for an accessory structure from 7 feet to 5 feet, a reduction in the east accessory structure side yard setback from 7 feet to 2 feet 6 inches, and a reduction in the rear yard accessory structure setback from 15 feet to 10 feet, with the following conditions: that design exception 1 must be approved, design exception 1 being also known as design exception application number DE1-21-195, that said variance as conditioned be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the approval of this variance would allow other structures in the neighborhood to be under a common general complementary design, that the variance will not substantially interfere with or injure the health, safety, or welfare of others whose property would be affected, as the applicant owns the most affected property adjacent to the subject property. And the alleged hardships are unique and singular with respect to the property, given the narrow lot size.
Second.
excellent. Thank you, Ms. Decker, for that wonderful motion on a challenging motion practice. And thank you, Mr. Farrell, for the second. We have a motion to approve and a second. Let's have a vote. All those in favor say aye. Raise your hand. Aye. All those opposed? Nay. All right, your motion has been approved 5-1.
Thank you so much.
And I think that does it for the evening. So thank you all very much, and the hearing is closed. Nice one.
Well, it's one thing about the women that I just can't understand them. Everything they need, but still they want another man, that's all.